What's up, everybody? Pastor Robbie here. I'm back with another Sunday video for you. This one's going to be a little bit shorter because I'm asking you to also participate in the worship with our brothers and sisters at Bronx Bethany Church of the Nazarene out in New York as an act of solidarity with those across the country who are experiencing again the upheaval of the spirit as we are reminded yet again of the risk presented to black men and women by police brutality. It's a hard moment in the country right now, but it is also a moment that necessitates the wisdom of the Lord. So let's see what the Lord is saying to us today. There's a lot going on in the world today, and it seems like very little of it's good. If you've been paying attention to the news, it's a tough time out there. We see in the news one group of people who are gathering to protest for their lives, but then it looks like there's another group of people who are out there trying to infiltrate their protests in order to disrupt and transform what's supposed to be a statement about the sanctity of life and make it into something that's easy to vilify. On the home front in our house this week, it was a little bit easier for us with Tegan's schoolwork finishing up for the summer. We're free from that daily commitment, and you'll probably see a little video about that in the coming weeks, right? But during the school year, when we had to do those daily Zoom classes, I had to cut back on the work of video production doing this stuff. But that opened up the door for us to do some other projects around the house, including a little one that's up on the roof of the building. So do this. Check out this quick little clip of the garden that I've been working on upstairs. So one of those things that we've been filling our time with is just trying to do some, gardening up on the roof. So I want to just kind of show you around real quick at some of the things that we've been working on out. We don't have, a ton of space. Little itty bitty teeny weeny little vegetable garden that we've got going on here. Some strawberries, and I know we've got at least one little guy that's starting to turn red. We've got the zucchini kind of squash here right in the front that's really trying to be aggressive, but you see we've got some little guys that are growing there. The tomatoes, which you can see that we've got the start of some little flowers here, which means we'll have some tomatoes. You've got the same over here. Down in here we've got some just little herbs and stuff. Sorrel, rosemary, dillweed, basil, all kind of started. Back here we've got a small pot of carrots that are going. These are interesting. These are just some bell peppers that we started by seed. They took a really long time to come out, but they're finally starting to show up. These are cucumbers that are coming through here. We've got our beans really starting to take off. We got our little teepees going. I transplanted some peas here, so these are just sugar snap peas. This right here is a brand new addition to what we're doing. This is a small, what do we call, dwarf lemon tree. Some birds maybe through that might. So we've got a little jasmine that we picked up over the weekend, a rose that we've got, and then we've got the hydrangea, and then I always forget what this little guy is here, but whatever this little guy is here, just to bring a little color up onto the roof. But I mean, that's kind of
one of the things that we've been doing a little bit, to help, kill some of the time while we've been working with Tegan and her in her schooling, and hopefully now that we're not doing the schooling, we'll have a little bit more time to dedicate up here and into some of the other things that we've been doing. But yeah, that's our garden for now.
So that's the garden so far, right? It's like this little place of peace for me. Like I can go up there and I can have a break from everything that's happening in here. I can have a little space where I can take a deep breath, have a cup of coffee, read a little bit, pray even. Whatever it is that I need, I can kind of like go up there. I can find a little bit of peace in that place. And finding peace is something that we have got to find right now. And we've got to find some space for peace, because it's not like peace is just like, looking for us. It's not just coming straight to us. We can look out in the world, we can check the news, right? And you're going to see that there's a total lack of peace that's happening in the world right now. Like the stuff that's happening up in Minneapolis and large cities across the country, where do you find peace in the midst of all of that? A black man is killed by the police in a brutal, inhumane way, and it's captured on video again, right? And everyone's upset by that image, and then the response is just this outburst of dammed up emotions at the centuries-long oppression of black people in America. And in the places where a nation would normally look to find wisdom, we learn that there's no wisdom in those places now. There's just, more opportunistic words that seek to seize power. It's hard to watch because there's very little peace to be found in this time, but I feel like something's being revealed to us, right? And that's that peace doesn't just happen. It doesn't just spring up from the earth, or you turn a corner and then all of a sudden you find the place where peace has existed the whole time. Peace is like any of the fruit of the Spirit. Peace is something that each and every one of us has to work for. The garden has always been a great analogy for us to see a reflection of ourselves and the things that Christ calls us to. Jesus used it all the time in his own teachings, and we can see that analogy to peace as the produce of an abundant garden when we look at the basic work of raising food. If I want the garden upstairs to produce, but I don't do the work to help it produce, what will I get? Well, I'll just get a bunch of dead plants mixed with weeds, right? If I want my tomato plants to produce tomatoes, I have to water, I have to weed, I have to make sure the plant has enough exposure to sun and heat. I have to wait patiently and keep it all of that work until one day, a couple months later, I'm harvesting tomatoes. Today is also the Sunday of Pentecost. And we don't normally think of this day and associate it with peace, but in some ways we see that shalom style of peace coming through the arrival of the Holy Spirit. When the Holy Spirit arrived, the apostles were given the gift of languages, right? Now, some people will see that as a connection to Babel, but the function of the languages was different in those two different stories. And I was actually reminded about this last week by a friend, Tim Olson. The language in the story of Babel divided and scattered the people. The language in the story of Pentecost brought people together. See, in Babel, the people were of one mind. They were doing one thing, and then they were scattered because of this new form of language that they found. On Pentecost, the people were all there. They were not there together of one mind, but the gift of the Holy Spirit used language to bring them all together, to make them whole. See, this is the type of peace that the world needs today. It's not the type of peace that's about a lack of conflict, but it's that peace that is about wholeness, about completion, that shalom type of peace. And that type of peace isn't something that's brought about into the world simply by seeing an end to the conflict that's around us, right? Those things that make us feel uncomfortable. That full form of peace needs something else for it to come to completion, and that extra step is justice. On the first Sunday of Pentecost, the presence of the Holy Spirit added something to the work that brought people together rather than scattered them. If we want to see ourselves brought together, then we need to see that extra work of justice for all that is broken in the world today. Police brutality towards black men and women. That's something that's broken in our country right now. That is something that needs to be fixed before we can find peace. And as we're seeing right now, the problem is not that black people just need to do less crime. That's a perspective that is rooted in a sense of superiority that can't coexist in a just world that's filled with peace. There is a spirit of superiority in police forces that lends itself to the domination of black people across the country. That's the problem that needs to be brought to justice if we are ever to find peace. And if it's not fixed, I guarantee you we will find ourselves right back at this spot again. The world right now is not one that appears to have a lot of peace, and that is because very few people are about the work of cultivating peace for more than just themselves or maybe just for their families. That's why the work of the garden is an important analogy for us today. I can't just buy plants, throw them on the roof, and do nothing else with them and expect anything other than dead plants. We had a little bit of moisture late this week, but this is San Francisco in May. If I don't water those plants, they're not going to see a natural form of water again until maybe October. Peace and justice, they require that same patient, watchful attentiveness as the plants in my garden. For peace to be realized, you need to be about the work of cultivating peace today. And before you say, the black folks in Minneapolis and in other places across the country, right, like they're in need of cultivating peace while they riot. Just let's stop that. This isn't their job. This is your job. You cultivate peace. You do it where you are, and you do it in a way that spreads throughout your community, even into your local police department, so that they don't dig a knee into the neck of any human being because they are filled with a peace and not a hate towards other people. Cultivate peace in your own space today. Listen, peace will not abide hate for others. So if you find that you have hate for somebody else, if you find that you have hate for a whole group of people, it's time for you to start doing the work of cultivating peace in your own life. It's time to take a deep breath, figure out where that hatred comes from, and do the hard work of walking away from that hate. If you feel good about yourself, feel like you love a lot of other people, then it's also time for you to start working, right? It's time for you to start cultivating peace and justice in broader networks. Our inner health is not just ours so that we can lord it over those who don't have the same benefits that we do. We are blessed so that others might see and experience that same blessing in their lives. So if you're feeling good about yourself right now, don't rest on that. Expand your circle and usher peace into new spaces. Listen, I'm going to stop it there. That's all I'm going to do today. I'll have a link for the worship service at Bronx Bethel in the comment section down below. I want you to go ahead and participate in their worship service today as well, and really get a sense of, what's going on in big cities around the United States. But until the next one, until the next video here, I want you to always remember that I love you. I want you to stay safe and healthy, and I'll talk to you then.